1948, 2009, 2018, and now 2023. Though England were thousands of times better against Ireland compared to their battering against France, Ireland showed true mental toughness to extend a lead of just 1 point to win their 4th Grand Slam in history by 13 points. This was all in front of their home crowd with an English coach, and this was a farewell to their captain, Johnny Sexton, who will retire at the end of the Rugby World Cup this year. At the conclusion of their most satisfying Grand Slam yet, are Ireland favourites for the World Cup? Well, let's look at the evidence. Let's get into this. Kia ora guys, my name's Max, I'm the host of The Black Jersey. Make sure you subscribe to me if you enjoy my content. Wow man, what an awesome game from England and Ireland. A thriller that had me on the edge of my seat for pretty much the entire game. Craziness. Ireland took it out though. Awesome work to them. Let's get into a bit of footage analysis as to how they were able to achieve this result and what England's tried to do to counteract the Irish waves after wave after wave after wave. Let's go. Though England were very much in this contest until the 68th minute, we were always able to feel an Irish presence in this match, regardless of their position as an attacking or defending team. It almost reminded me of how South Africa did the same thing in the 2019 Rugby World Cup final. Said presence is easily observable as soon as the 6th minute of the game. As we can see, Jack van Poortvliet is turning back to his teammates as the referee calls advantage for England, but we're seeing a rather unstructured appearance from the 5 immediate options to receive a pass off the ruck. Itoje and Willis are only just wrapping around from the previous ruck, with no clear running line available to Sinclair. Should he be following the arrow towards Doris and Baird, he'll get pushed backwards, while a pass from him to Tuolangi will also allow Ireland to keep them back. Tuolangi is a back without front foot ball. As the Ireland's defence is so organised, flat and agreed upon, Tuolangi is forced to go at the back to Farrell, who was dropped into the 12 channel with Ludlam running a decoy line at low. Farrell being forced to run from deep has led to Ludlam being a missing piece from the attack. Sexton and Henshaw can now press up on Watson and Stewart. As the ball slots in between Farrell's hands, a press forward from Sexton and Henshaw creates a scenario in which they can easily bite in and push Watson back without any possible ruck clearance options for England, meaning the black arrow indicates Farrell's only possible pass option is out to Freddie Stewart. While Stewart is able to outpace Henshaw on the outside channel, this failure of England's attack to keep up with the Ireland's defence has allowed for Keenan to shoot up and get in Arundel's face, forcing Stewart to run between Henshaw and Keenan. As we can see through the illustrations, passing out through Arundel will likely lead to him being tackled in the touch. England still don't have any ruck clearance options out wide, so Stewart is forced to take it in himself. Advantage is over, and this results in a penalty goal for Farrell rather than what could have been a try. England now have as many points on the board as Ireland had New Zealanders in their starting backline. Although the halftime score suggests a pretty boring game, Ireland's did show some really nice attack in the first half too. The Irish presence in the match has been discussed on early defence, now we'll show it in early attack phases. As we can see with Sexton's possession in the 16th minute, we see Van der Fleer running towards a gap between Ribbons and Genge, which will be a very nice crash ball run if the backs can clean out. We're now seeing Keenan and Hansen in a possible pod shape, with some hands down the line options in Aki and Henshaw. Josh Van der Fleer, however, has downloaded the new software update of Mike Catt's decoy line. He instead runs across towards the inside to take out Ribbons from the defensive line. We scroll back a few frames showing Ribbons to initially be marking Keenan. Because Genge is sprinting towards Sexton at pace, Van der Fleer realises at the top of his head that by cutting Ribbons off he'll open a gap for his teammates. Van der Fleer runs a very believable attack line though. We freeze frame again as his shoulder makes contact with Ribbons' shoulder, properly committing Ribbons to the space on the pitch. With Slade and company distracted by Aki on the outside, Keenan sprints through this gap while Aki and O'Mahony come in to clean the ruck from 5 metres out. out. England reorganised on defence though, later kicking for territory after a turnover. What we're about to see though is that the ultimate difference between the teams was what such presence in the match was used for. England were absolutely present in the game, but their discipline didn't seem to be. Kyle Sinckler allows Johnny Sexton to become the all-time leading point scorer in Six Nations history with a pretty daft entry into a ruck. While he's clearly over the ball first, he has come in from the right edge of the ruck. This entry is legal because he's not Richie McCaw or Michael Hooper, but being in such a position is forcing him to bend over at an angle much closer to 45 degrees than to 90. There is another player in the middle of the ruck instead, so Sinckler is now in a worse off-body position compared to the typical jackal position that we see demonstrated in the cartoon. As he is on the very edge of the ruck too, Ludlam quite honestly is not in a realistic position to bind on and lend his weight for the turnover. Ludlam will be forced to put his hands on the ground if he moves into the ruck position he's been illustrated to take. These circumstances mean Sinckler isn't crazy difficult to move off his feet. Furlong is able to twist Sinclair's torso towards the ref and force Sinclair's left hand to land on the ground. He's now off his feet, it's an illegal ruck position, Ireland are pretty comfortable to finally take the 3. Although the game is incredibly tense with Ireland's down by 3-6 in the 33rd minute, they're able to shake off the rattling from up front and finally score the opening try. Beard takes the line-out throw before the world's best hooker, Josh van der Flier, detaches from the maul. England have done some nice work at spreading out as a defensive unit. Sinckler and George have firmly established themselves on the blind side against Gibson, Park and Lowe, who are backs that will get smashed should they run these lines the arrows show us, especially with the forwards needing a bit to detach from the maul. We've then got Johnny Sexton and just 2 other Irish players out on the open side and frame, while we can see all 7 England backs in the open field. Having studied the usual defensive position of a winger in England's set piece, Andy Farrell has devised a beautiful set move for Ireland. This position is shown to have Henry Arundel in the 10 channel. Wingers normally defend this channel for England's during lineouts due to the small size of Marcus Smith on the back foot. As Arundel is 7 kgs heavier than Sexton, who is at first receiver, he'll be able to push him backwards no question. However, with Gibson Park over on the blind side, we can see that England have only just started pressing forward as they aren't worried about the ball going wide, though Ireland have begun sprinting. As there is this huge hole of space without any backs for Ireland, this next move simply is not expected. Dombrand correctly moves in on Josh van der Flier, assuming Sheehan is turning up to clean the ruck, but with Gibson, Park and Lowe still distracting Ludlam, Sinckler and George, there are no men on Dombrand's inside. As the ball floats into Sheehan's arms, we now illustrate a monster gap to sprint at, courtesy of the England forwards being here, while here is where they should be instead. Sheehan sprints through with pace and smashes Tuolangi for the opening try. What a stunner. While England finish the first half down to 14 men, they show some mental toughness of their own to survive the rest of the first half unscathed. Now let's have a look at the halftime stats. Now here we have the halftime stats: 61% possession and 57% territory for Ireland, though they're only ahead by 4 points thanks to that late try through Sheehan. England, as I said, did very well to survive the onslaught of Irish attack that continues deep and deep and deep into the red. England being able to hold such a scoreline despite very low possession was a true testament to how their cover defence was working, though their tackle accuracy didn't quite reflect it. That was very nice work from them. No surprises to see Ireland leading all the meters, defenders beaten, and no clean breaks for England, though England were trying to get the ball a bit wider with 4 offloads. Perhaps that was to compensate for the fact that Owen Farrell was at 10 with Marcus Smith again on the bench. Ireland, a lot more passes though because of those possession stats. They were also winning more turnovers with 4 of their own to 3 of England's. This is possibly a reflective of why they were having to get this high possession rate. A lot of kicking as well from Ireland, which was very good to see. They definitely outsmarted England on this front. They weren't necessarily kicking to attack, they were just doing a really good job at kicking for territory. Over to their tackle success, they beat England over there. Both teams were using cover defence and they were getting some pretty decent results in terms of percentage for this strategy. Nice goal kicking, nice ruck success. As we've discovered on this channel many a time, time, the winning side usually tends to have a higher ruck success. This is indeed true for this game. The lineouts won. Just one loss for Ireland, that's all good. The scrum though, England have lost one, but the most disappointing thing I guess is the lack of threes that Johnny Sexton was willing to take. In this first half, England conceded 6 penalties inside their own half, but Johnny Sexton only turned one of these goals. He only turned one of these penalties into a shot at goal, which is quite unusual. Are Ireland starting to get a bit cocky with their running with the ball in hand? It's good to see they have a variety of game plans, but they don't want to over-rely on one. I do think they were showing in this game they are indeed human during the first half. They aren't perfect, but they are of course the best rugby team in the world. England also definitely conceded far more penalties inside the opponent's half. They weren't releasing a fair few times at the breakdown, and of course there's that red card to Stewart that's on the chart, so England have a total of 11 penalties compared to just 3 for Ireland. Discipline indeed was a huge difference in the first half. Let's get into analysis on the second half to see how the floodgates were able to open. A fair few chances that we can see don't go Ireland's way in the second half, while England wrestle back some of the scrum dominance. It's a pretty easy penalty here for Farrell, which leaves the scoreline neck and neck at just 10-9 for Ireland. After being at the edge of my seat for a long time though, the floodgates finally open. Robbie Henshaw dots down for a well-worked try which begins at the scrum. Ireland's play 2 phases under advantage from the England scrum collapse before Mr. Reliable himself, the world's best hooker, turns up again. Say what you want about this bad tackle attempt by Jamie George, but let's rewind again. Josh van der Fleer runs a superb decoy line again, running straight at Kyle Sinclair. The second that the ball disappears from the camera's view behind Gibson Park's torso, Kyle Sinclair starts spreading wide to cover van der Fleer, while Aki appears to be a clean-out option. Sinclair has also put himself in a decent position to drift a little wider. This arrow shows us the position can lead him to being wide enough to cover a crash ball run by Aki. Van der Fleer says, "Not today, mate." Again, his shoulder connects to Sinclair's, eliminating the threat of the drift hazard. Sinclair is also in the way of a Toje who was guarding the fringes of the previous ruck. Had Van der Fleer not removed Sinclair from marking Aki, we would see this defensive pattern here for England. Farrell would have been able to mark Henshaw with Sinclair on Aki and a Toje covering an inside pass to Van der Fleer, or George's arm is still in frame, will show that as marking Dan Sheehan on the outside. With Sinclair out of the way though, Aki is able to suck Farrell in and put Henshaw over for a crucial try unmarked. Good stuff there. In an incredible coming-of-age man-of-the-match performance, Dan Sheehan is able to show his immense work rate just before being subbed off with a sore shoulder too. We see a nice carry after he detaches from the maul in the 68th minute, allowing for front foot ball. England aren't able to drift wide enough after Ireland's second phase, with Sheehan remaining out wide, receiving a pass by Hansen to run blindside again with the extra man overlap. Though this overlap is very nicely covered by Jack van Poortvliet, the damage is done. Front foot ball is easy to generate again. We now see Sheehan do phenomenally, making a third carry in 5 phases to score a double. While a few people might say this pass is forward, Conan's right foot is next to Van Poortvliet's right foot, while the ball has left his hands by the time Sheehan is in line with Conan's feet. As Sheehan was behind Conan as the ball was released, this is indeed a try to mark an amazing man-of-the-match effort. It's a pretty safe scoreline by 73 minutes, though England's pack achieve a strong driving maul, sending Jamie George in for a try. Ireland, however, are able to end the scoring with a repeat of the same efforts. This time it's Rob Herring. Herring scored the final try of Ireland's deserved series win against the All Blacks, and this time he finishes their Grand Slam efforts like a back. With Curry attempting the tackle from side on, Herring was always going to get there. While England attempt to score the last few points, it doesn't go their way, and the final score is 29-16 for Ireland. Time to discuss the full-time stats and what they'll say to us about the phenomenal Irish presence. Amazing stuff. Good work. That's the end of the game. 29-16 for Ireland. Possession and territory did go more in England's favour during the second half, but it's what you do with the ball rather than how much of it you have that's always going to determine how a game turns out. The clean breaks, of course, 8 for Ireland, none for England. Phenomenal stuff. Nearly twice as many metres, twice as many defenders beaten. A few more passes. England didn't offload at any occasions in the second half, which was odd. Ireland, though, lead the turnover count again. 7 turnovers to 5. Phenomenal work from the loose forwards, just winning all that ball for the Irish at the breakdown. And the kicking from hand, England definitely weren't kicking as well, though they were able to match Ireland almost for the amount of them. And the tackle accuracy, England's do have something to work on over there. They perhaps haven't adjusted as well to a cover defence strategy as they've been with Borthwick for a shorter amount of time. The ruck success, once again, winning team is higher ruck success, no surprises. England, as I've said a few times, were pretty guilty of not releasing their own ball, which was not a good move at all. You just got to let the game flow, and if it's not flowing your way, it allows the opponents to really just take control. And as we saw in the analysis of the second half, those Irish players were taking absolute full control compared to the English, who weren't quite as organised. Line-out success, there were a few spills, but it's okay, both very high success rates. The scrum, though, it started to really just go in the favour of the Irish in that second half. Those replacements did a huge job. Cian Healy and Tom O'Toole, hats off to them, and Marco Vunipola and Dan Cole, they are getting pretty slow, so I do think we are going to see them retire at the end of the Rugby World Cup. And penalties, man. 1 red card for England, 1 yellow card for England, 7 penalties inside their own half and 6 inside the opposition half. That is 15 total penalties compared to 7 for Ireland. So England conceded more than twice as many penalties as Ireland, and that's why the Irish were able to get down into that 22 so many times throughout the game, because they were kicking and kicking and kicking. That's why they attempted more lineouts throughout the game. And man, I don't blame them for taking those opportunities at all. They'd done the work with the set moves. They just needed a bit of intuition to finish it all off, and they brought that exact thing to the table. Congratulations to Ireland for winning their Grand Slam. Andy Farrell, as far as I'm concerned, rather, he is their greatest head coach of all time. And Steve Borthwick, man, I said in an earlier video, I think he was given the job as the head coach a little bit too early. This will be a fair bit of growing pains for his team to go through. Just make sure you subscribe to me now that this video is over and done with. A big thank you to my patrons as well, especially to the Rugby Supporter and Rugby Superstar tiers, who are really giving me a hand with this full-time content creator job kind of thing. You can also visit me over on Instagram. You can visit me on Twitter, and you can just make a one-off donation to my PayPal tip jar if you just want to do something one-off to help me continue to grow this channel. I'll have my analysis on Wales versus France coming very soon. I'll have my team of the tournament coming very soon, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching from Max.